Yes, I'm ready.
All right. So let's get this show on the road. So today on the EOS Fireside Chat, we've got a couple topics lined up for you guys, including talking about some upcoming EOSIO Plus Coalition developments. We'll be talking also a bit about the recent Eden Chief Delegate call that happened. We got, of course, a quick update on the Pomelo Season 2 report that was published this week. We also have a special guest, Phillip from Chintai, is going to give us some updates about what they've been up to recently. And of course, we invite all of you to join in the conversations. At any time, you can request to jump in there with a comment, a question for one of the speakers. At the end of the show, there's, of course, always the open mic section where you guys can bring up new topics or other questions that weren't discussed up until that point. We also have, of course, our Pop Tokens giveaway. So you can listen in on Twitter. Shout out to those listening on the stream on YouTube, and join us on Discord. So if you're not yet on Discord, you can earn a Pop Token by joining us on Discord and joining the stream chat channel that's out there. So that's discord.gg/EOS-Discord if you're not already there. You can also earn a Pop Token NFT on Twitter by retweeting the latest tweet from the ENF. So if you go over to the ENF profile, you'll see a tweet that was sent out just a few minutes ago announcing the topics, and that is live. So let's give that a retweet and leave a comment and leave your EOS account in a comment. And so the people who help us spread the word about this event will earn an extra Pop Token today. Of course, Pop Tokens, you can earn them every week by participating in the Fireside Chats, and then redeem them for some raffle tickets at the end of the month, and then you have chances to win NFT prizes, including a bunch of prizes worth at least 5 EOS each. Okay, so I think that covers it for today's agenda. So just gonna give it a few more seconds for people to scroll on in, and then we'll get started with the first topic. Feel free to jump in here, say hi to the community while we wait another 30 seconds or so.
Your connection's pretty spotty there, Steph.
What was that?
Your connection's a bit spotty.
Is that so? To connection and make things worse. But yeah, so let's get into it. I see is Phillip from Chintai with us. Maybe you can get us started if you're ready to speak. Let me invite you in as a speaker. Should be able to accept and join us on stage if you're there. Maybe not. We'll get back to Phillip in just a bit. So regarding the EOSIO Plus Coalition, as many of you know, they are currently in the process of rebranding EOSIO. So that's the name of the software that runs the EOS network, that runs Wax Network, Telos, Ultra, and a few others, many others actually. And the EOSIO software used to be created by Block One. They've been removed from, they've been fired by the network, and they're no longer upgrading the software. So the EOSIO Plus Coalition is the coalition of all these networks coming together to rename the software, and more importantly, keep it updated and continue publishing updates. So I see Yves Larose is with us, requesting to speak. Absolutely. So this week, and feel free to jump in here if you want, Yves, but from my understanding is that the group will be discussing potential branding options for EOSIO Plus. Now, the ENF is publishing these videos every week. There's timestamps made. Sometimes there's highlight clips pulled out if there's stuff that's really very interesting for the community. This week, the plan is to, of course, publish that EOSIO Coalition call. However, during the segment where they'll be discussing the various branding options, we'll be cutting out that entire segment from the video and publishing it on its own, while bleeping and censoring sensitive parts of that conversation, so that people, so that until the final rebrand is complete. So of course, we don't want people to potentially squat some usernames, some websites, some copyright, all that stuff. So they're going to be keeping that, and not revealed to the community just yet. But we might still publish the clip, so the community can get a sense of the discussion and the reactions from various participants. So you can look forward to that later on this week.
Let me add to this.
Yeah.
So no, you will not be. The reason why I'm late to this call is I was in that branding meeting. So we just had the latest branding meeting with the branding agency. We essentially did select the 3 names that will be brought forth to the larger coalition. The branding agency, though, because we just had this today, it's Wednesday, tomorrow is the EOSIO Plus call. We've given them a couple of extra days, so we will be doing what you just mentioned, but next week instead. They're going to be taking the 3 names that we landed on from a list of 6 names that they presented today, and they'll be passing them through a few other filters just to ensure that everything is okay from a pronunciation, cultural association point of view. They'll also double check the trademarks, etc., which they've already done, but ensure that now that we've selected a few, that domains, they'll really do a lengthy list of which domains are available for those, which they've already done today and they presented to us, but ensure that that's still relevant by the time we present. So basically everything you've mentioned is pretty bang on, other than it will not occur tomorrow, it'll occur next Thursday.
There you go.
And also to add, perhaps, I'm not sure that the idea is to so the idea is to go in camera while we discuss that topic. In camera meaning we stop the recording. You did mention, however, that we'd then be publishing that as a standalone, bleeping perhaps the name. I'm not sure that's going to be possible, simply because if we're talking about all the components of the name without saying the name, you still probably will be able to figure out what the name is. So I'm just not sure that that will be realistic, depending on the conversation. I just spent an hour, and throughout the comments about the name and speaking about the names and speaking about the feelings and everything that those names invoke, you inevitably pretty much say the name. And so I'm just not sure that that's going to be possible the way that you mentioned it.
Okay, thanks for the update. My information was stale. It was old by 3 hours, but things move so quickly. I guess things have already changed. And
well, this is 6 minutes old.
Well, there you go.
I just came out of the call.
Good. No, great. So thanks for sharing that update, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this rebrand. I'm sure the rest of the community is as well. Was there anyone else from the EOSIO Plus Coalition call maybe that wanted to jump in? Or I guess we had Yves give a pretty good update there. Okay, cool. So moving on. Second chance for Philip from Chintai to join us. Gonna send another invite. Jump in here whenever you can, Philip.
Does he know about the mobile thing? Maybe he's on desktop.
Maybe he's on desktop. That's possible.
So if anyone wants to just listen, desktop works just fine. But if you want to speak on a Twitter Spaces, it requires being connected through the mobile app on Twitter.
That's right. And if you do want to join the conversation but can't be on mobile for whatever reason, you can join us by text chat in the stream chat channel on Discord, and we'll be monitoring that channel as well for people who want to participate through there. Okay, so real quick, I can give us a short update on Pomelo. I don't see Dan in the chat right now, so I'll just go ahead. Of course, Pomelo team published the season 2 report a few days ago on Monday. And so now the community is invited to read the report, to review the actions that the Pomelo team is taking, and submit appeals if grant owners feel that they have, a case to make and want to appeal. 9 days available for appeal process. And so, and anyone else in the community who wants to share comment or feedback, of course, now's the time to do it. In 1 week from now, on Wednesday, 25th, that's when the appeal process is closed. And that's when, or potentially on the 24th is when the appeal process is closed. And then on the 25th is when everything is finalized and grant owners can claim their matching funds at that point. So I'm sure many of you are excited to keep going in that process and claim your funds and then deliver on the great public goods that you all pitched to the community. Small delay, but got it in there. Right. Okay, let's see. Is Brandon here? I think he is. I'm going to invite you to the stage, Brendan, and wondering if you wanted to talk a bit about Eden and the recent chief delegate call that happened. So we're just going to give Brendan the chance to get set up here.
Can I just check? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Cool. Got that working now, but I can talk later.
Perfect. No, welcome, Philip. Welcome to the stage, Philip. Yeah, let's get into the Chintai topic if you're available.
Sure. Sorry about the delay. When I tried to join, my phone was saying, "Do you let Twitter access your microphone?" And then it was too late by the time that was sorted.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Go for it.
Yeah. So Chintai has been doing an awful lot in the last year. I'm sure most of you are aware, like we raised our seed round in May last year, and recently a lot has been happening all at once. So we just recently got the in-principle approval for the CMS license from the MAS. That's the Capital Markets Service license from the Monetary Authority of Singapore, which is going to allow us to do primary issuance of securities on a blockchain, on our blockchain. So that's probably the biggest news that I have to report right now. We have other things going on as well in the background. I don't know if you want me to just list everything or if you want to talk about them or.
Yeah, sure. List some of the things you guys are working on. I'm curious to learn more.
All right. Then we're also in the process of applying for another license with the MAS. So that's the RMO license, the Recognized Market Operator license. when we get that license, we'll be allowed to trade digital assets as well. So we'll be able to do secondary trading of securities. And in addition to all of this, the RMO license we haven't got the approval for yet, but we're hoping that we get that very soon. And in addition to that, we have our soft launched our platform, so people can at least go onto the platform now. They can start going through the KYC process and prepare to start using the platform with Just Carbon, our first clients. Just Carbon is you can go to justcarbon.com to learn more about them, but they're essentially issuing carbon credits on our system. And we also have several other clients. I can't give you the specific details of them yet because we are like doing things like organizing joint press releases, etc. But we're getting there with some real estate clients, some funds, other things as well. And then the final thing, just so I've listed everything that's like it happened in the last couple of weeks, is that we're in the middle of doing an integration with BitGo. So BitGo is a custodian provider for blockchain cryptocurrencies, and once that's finished, we'll have the ability to start bridging digital assets across blockchains, such that we can, when people come to our platform to create tokens, whether they are securities is a bit harder because of the regulations, but at least on the utility token side, we'll be able to bridge them to other blockchains, including obviously EOS, which will be really cool. Yeah, those are the updates from my side.
Perfect, thanks. Just a question, clarify, these securities that are created, they're on your own private EOSIO chain, is that right? Correct,
yeah, the Chintai mainnet. So this chain is already set up and running, but it's EOSIO-based protocol chain, but we've made several changes to it to make it so that, like, because we're trying to, or we are compliant and with all the regulators and all of the requirements that they have, there are various things that we have to take account of in how we actually run the chain. So for example, we have to maintain privacy of the users on the chain. So while it is EOSIO, we've made some changes to the way it's structured and works a little bit, so that, for example, you can't like access someone like, do Cleos get account or whatever and see the details of a person's account and their KYC information and all the rest of this stuff. We'll release a block explorer for this in a couple of months, which will then let you see how the blockchain looks like and how it works. But yeah, with some restrictions on what's actually visible to the end users.
Okay, cool. And what is the relation to the checks token that with this platform?
Yeah, so I can't talk too much about the details of that until some final things are sorted with the RMO license and some of the legals. But the checks token is an integral part of the Chintai network. So it will be utilized on the chain. One of the things I can openly say is that it will have a use case very similar to like EOS on the EOS mainnet or WAX on the WAX mainnet, in the sense of it's like it can be used as a resource token. But it will also have additional functionality as well, which unfortunately at this time I can't tell you. We have written a tokenomic paper that describes all of this stuff, but again, we haven't published it because we're waiting on various things that I also can't talk about, unfortunately.
Sure, no.
Regulations.
yeah, no, I totally get it. That's fine. So I imagine the checks token, you can bridge it from the EOS mainnet to the Chintai mainnet and back and forth. Is that how that works?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we've already like in the process of setting this up, the BitGo integration, we've already done a test run of doing this by moving checks to Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain as well, just to show that it can go in every direction. But right now, that's a kind of manual process. Like we're in the middle of doing the automation so that it happens in a smooth and an automated way and accounts for everything. Like there's a lot of complications with gas fees and stuff on platforms like Ethereum. And we have to create the interface for it still as well, so that users can do it in a user-friendly way.
All right, great. Well, thanks for joining us, Philip, and thanks for sharing.
Whoa. No, I have a question. So with your token being on so many different chains, is EOS still kind of the source of truth as far as like the supply is concerned? And then every other version is the wrapped version, or is the like native version on the Chintai chain now, and then the EOS version's essentially the wrapped version, the Binance chain version's a wrapped version, everything else is wrapped? Like which one's the native version and which ones are the wrapped version?
So in most tokens, when you move them across chains like this, you don't typically actually like get rid of the tokens on the chains where they originally were. So like usually, for example, like say, for example, when we have EOS on our chain for trading EOS tokens, right? What will happen is the EOS tokens will go into our wallet, and then we will create EOS tokens on our own mainnet. And obviously those tokens on our mainnet are wrapped tokens because we're essentially like one-to-one backing them with what we have in a wallet on the EOS mainnet, right? The way I'm doing it with the checks token is that when you move them from one chain to another, they are retired on the chain that they formerly were on. So in essence, they're all equally valid. There's no such thing as like a wrapped token here. It's just there's a checks token that exists on multiple chains, and it's not like backed by anything. It's by definition the correct token, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in a sense. So basically, it'd be like if I sent EOS to the Chintai chain, there'd be locked EOS on the EOS chain and a multi-sig wallet of some kind for the vault, and then it would mint new wrapped EOS on the Chintai chain. But then if you wanted to bridge that EOS with like a Chintai wrapped version on Binance chain, it would kind of be like a wrapped version of a wrapped version. Like, I guess checks isn't inflationary, correct? It's the supply's fixed.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess
technically it's deflationary, but yeah, it's like fixed or going down. It's not going up.
Is the majority of the supply still on EOS, or have you bridged over like a lot of your team?
Oh no, like all of it's still on EOS. There's like a little bit of it on Ethereum and Binance smart chain for putting them on Uniswap just to reach larger markets. But in general, the vast majority of it is still on EOS. When we are ready to implement the checks tokenomics on the Chintai mainnet, at that point we will activate the ability to move over, and then it's up to the individual checks holders if they want to do that or not.
Cool, got it. Oh, one more thing. So with the bridging tech, is it one-to-one, or do you have many-to-many functionality? So for example, if I have checks on EOS, would I be able to send checks to Ethereum or Binance, or would I have to send it first to the Chintai chain, then to Ethereum, and then if I wanted to go to Binance, I'd have to send it to the Chintai chain, and then to whatever the other chain was, like Binance, for example?
Many to many. So you can go straight from EOS to whichever chain you want, and then from that chain to whichever other chain you want.
That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, I think Steph dropped off because I told him his connection is bad. I don't have the list of topics in front of me, so I guess I could carry this for a little bit unless someone wants to help me out here. Wasn't preparing to talk. One update I can give is, we already mentioned it last week, but the Yield Plus blue paper, so we'll be dropping a preview tomorrow. And then the full blue paper, it's the English version has been branded. It's all designed in the PDF. We just finally got back the Korean and Chinese translations today for Yield Plus. which is over 70-page document, and those are now going through the branding process. So they're basically being placed into the InDesign branded template, and then therefore everything's on track, as we mentioned on the last call. But next Thursday will be finally the Yield Plus blue paper, and then we will schedule a Yield Plus kind of like AMA Twitter Spaces with all of the team who were involved in the Yield Plus blue paper. I think we'll get more feedback, so we'll do another feedback round like we did for the first 4 blue papers. But I think there will be a lot more feedback and participation on this one, just because I think DeFi is a much more passionate topic for most people, much more engaging than, for example, security audits. But just wanted to, someone else is like clicking in, virtuous.
Hi there. So my question is for the ENF. So I would like to know about the since in the couple of last week we have some mainstream media covering about your talking in a fairly positive way. So what is the interest do we are getting some interest from venture capitalists and with private equity money that is something which is look out for some opportunity in yours. Do you get any expression of interest as the EOS Network Foundation after the release of the articles? Somebody reach out to you? Is there something like that? I hope I am clear with my question.
Yeah, question was clear. Thanks, Zach, for stepping in here while I try to fix my connection issues.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, Brandon, we can hear you. Before we get to you, I don't know if Zach or Yves has any comments to say regarding if there's been some interest since the many articles on EOS have been published on both mainstream media publications like Forbes and Wired, and also a variety of crypto publications as well this week and last week.
I don't want to say too much. If Yves wants to speak up, he will. But I will say that this week we've been working on a deck. I don't want to give too many more details. Yves is the better person for that. But yeah, so there is presentation materials being made. I won't really say for what, but yeah, I think the answer is yes.
But I guess to specifically answer the question, Vitruvius, yes, but not due to the articles that were released this week, or not as far as I know, not due to the articles that were released this week.
All right,
there's been interest simply due to EVM, I think is the largest one. And then since I guess the community has taken back ownership of or not taken back, but taken ownership of the code base, and we've seen a significant amount of work and development on the code base. That is probably the second, I guess, reason why people have been reaching out.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Yves and Zach. And thank you, Vitruvius, for joining us today and asking your question on air. Brandon, did you want to jump in here and share some comments? Seems like Brandon also has connection issues today. I'm sure he'll get connected in just a few seconds here.
While we wait for Brandon, if you don't mind me asking Philip his take on the Luna situation, and if he thinks that a unregulated stablecoin is even possible to design. Thank you.
So, philosophically speaking, I don't think stablecoins in general make much sense. Pegged coins make sense. And I'm not really convinced with any algorithmically formed stable pegged token that they work. Mostly because the value that you're driving is like economic and psychological, and we don't understand economics and psychology well enough. It is my personal view on it. So I think algorithmic stablecoins are not a good idea in general. And the only way that you can truly have a regulatory stablecoin or peg token that is something that the regulators are going to be happy with is if you can show that it's directly backed by, real world assets, things that won't lose value because of anything that could happen in the actual ecosystem you're in. So Chintai actually has a stable coin, a US dollar pegged stable coin on the platform as it's going live. This is essentially working like Tether, that it's like one-to-one backed by US dollars stored in a custodian bank account. With the only difference being that we'll actually publish the details of that so that you can actually see that it is really backed by real world assets.
Thank you, Perry, for the question, and thanks for joining us today. Aiden, did you want to jump into the conversation at this point?
Yeah. Hi. Hello, everyone. I was listening. I think I come late a little bit. And I was listening for Philip from Chintai, I think. Yeah. My question could be like for beginners or something like that. I'm just a product designer, and I'm a EOS holder, and I was wondering like, what could be like potential use case for me and the Chintai, like, because I'm see a lot of tweets about Chintai, and like, and I still trying to figure out what Chintai like could be beneficial for me as just a regular EOS holder. If there is any like simple answer to this, so would be very helpful to me, because like in EOS community, Chintai, I think it's kind of popular kind of business or some sort of it, and I'm trying to figure out what could be beneficial to both of us. So that's kind of my question. Thank you.
Sure. So the elevator pitch of what Chintai is doing now is that we allow the creation of digital assets, like the issuance of them as a first source, and then the trading of them. So the use case that you might have with Chintai is one of two use cases typically. Either you want to create a token, and you want to do that in like a seamless, easy way. We create the token for you. We set up like a token sale for you, and then we set up a market for you to then like have a secondary market for trading that token afterwards as well, in such a way that you don't break any laws, which is, I think, the biggest issue that people have in the crypto space. They don't want to get on the wrong side of regulators. So that's like one use case. I'll just say the second, and then you have a follow-up. That's fine. The second use case is if you're actually interested in buying those tokens or participating in those markets, then you have the ability to do that as well as on the investor side. And that lets you access opportunities that you wouldn't normally have access to, such as, for example, tokens that can actively and openly say, hey, I pay dividends because these tokens represent shares in my company. And, or like, hey, this token represents a debt that someone has and they're paying interest on it. And you can get that like fixed term interest loans or whatever, things of this nature, or buying real estate.
Yeah, that's quite helpful actually. Yeah, definitely something to think about. Like, for example, like creating a token and something with the real estate. Like, for example, just my use case. Like, I have my real estate back in Kazakhstan, and you said that you kind of make it in terms of the legal, right? But what countries you are covering right now? Do you have any kind of list of that, or?
Yeah, it's a nice short list. It's Singapore, so
Okay.
we're starting in Singapore, and then expanding to other countries over time. So basically, get fully licensed and regulated in one country. It's then much easier when you go to other countries to get licensing, and that's why we also chose Singapore, because they are blockchain friendly. They're not like some countries which, as soon as you say blockchain, they just close the door on you straight away. They're blockchain friendly, but they're also like, the financial hub of Asia. So once you've got the licensing with them, and you go to any other respected country, you can request a license for that country, and the process should be much simpler because they see that you're already licensed in a well-respected country.
Okay, I see. Yeah, maybe just like maybe last question. Do you have kind of plans or any idea what the next country after Singapore are you planning to kind of connect or have any businesses with?
I don't know that I can say that, so I'm not going to say anything at this point.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Thank you so
But
much.
I could say we have a plan. We have a plan. We have a list of countries and a prioritized list of countries where we want to go next.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Stephane, for giving a voice.
Thank you, Aiden, for joining us, and thanks, Philip, for the answers. Another question about Chintai coming in from Jesse on Discord: is the private EOSIO chain open source?
It is not at this time. It's something we're considering for the future, if we want to make it open source or not. But at this time, not.
All right, there you go. Fidel, a Cashflow. Did you want to jump into the conversation?
Hey, what's going on? Thank you. I appreciate you guys having the call and the opportunity to ask you guys a question. I'm an equities analyst. My question's about a publicly traded equity, or 2B, that you guys are all likely very familiar with. It's a SPAC called Bullish. The SPAC is Far Peak Acquisition Corp. It's FPAC. You guys are all very familiar, I'm sure. Block One and Bullish are looking to use what you guys believe is your bankroll, from my understanding, to start a crypto exchange. The SPAC has been repeatedly delayed. Sorry about that construction. I'm curious your guys' opinions that you're willing to share about the SPAC transaction, about why it's been delayed, if you think it'll be consummated at all, if you guys are doing anything on your end to prevent that from happening, and your thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm not sure I'm coming through. I'm going to let Yves or Zack take this question.
I mean, it's kind of a separate issue. We have no involvement with Bullish nor the SPAC deal, so I have no insight on what has been delaying anything. I do know that in the wider markets, like SPACs have cooled off significantly, and that's across the board, having nothing to do with Bullish. But besides that, I don't really have any comments on that.
Are you guys taking action to get the money back?
I mean, there's been some public information published on what kind of the intentions are, but it is with Block One rather than Bullish. Block One just happens to be the largest stakeholder in Bullish. So that's, I guess, the connection.
My understanding is that when you look at Bullish's balance sheet, roughly at a time it was $4 billion. At the time it was quoted as of that quarter end. But the 4 billion, which you guys claim is on Bullish's balance sheet. So I believe that they are the same company. I think that Bullish acquired Block One, actually.
I don't know how. I don't think that's how it worked, but I'm also not super familiar with how they're kind of merged together. As far as I understand, Bullish is the largest shareholder of, or Block One is the largest shareholder of Bullish. It's a subsidiary of Block One on their website right now, and that's kind of how it's described.
Okay, thank you. I guess the main thing I'm curious about is if there's this feeling still of anger that this was taken from you, and that is it still something that the community is upset about?
Yes, I think it's pretty obvious. Yes, I don't think there's anyone who's not angry about it.
Yeah, figures. Okay, well, I appreciate the time. Thanks.
Philip, could I ask where you got the information as to Bullish becoming the owner of Block One? I'm very curious where you got that. Thank you.
Here, give me a second. I'll look at their filings. You just got to give me a second. This is just a recollection. So
My recollection of the SEC statement, the proxy statement, was that BlackRock is the anchor investor of Bullish.
The confusion might be that Bullish acquired the EOS. The Bullish acquired the EOSIO IP. That might be the confusion. They didn't acquire Block One. Block One's kind of like a holdings company, and Bullish happens to be one of their main holdings. It holds most of their cryptocurrencies, their balance sheet. But as part of the, I guess, investment into Bullish, they rolled the EOSIO IP, which includes the code base, the copyrights, the social media accounts, the website, the documentation. They essentially gave all of that to Bullish.
Right. So I can read the quote here. This is on the proxy filed May 5th, 2022, page 289. Bullish Global was capitalized on December 31st, 2020 by Block One with 164,000 BTC, at the time valued US 4.8 billion. So they gave them the Bitcoin and 20.2 million EOS. So it's on their balance sheet, which I believe, that's the whole pitch. They're using it to stimulate liquidity on the exchange. I have kind of a side note, which is about, I guess you guys, I'm curious your thoughts about Bullish. They're claiming they're doing a couple $100 million in volumes, and I'm not seeing anyone talk about it. So I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Because it doesn't require real users. It's Bancor relays. So the only real users are arbitrage. The only real users that they need are arbitragers. So if you could buy Bitcoin off Bullish and sell it on Coinbase and collect a delta as a profit, one entity could do all of the market making and arbitrage to create a lot of volume from that. It's all profit driven. I don't believe, based on social media interactions and engagement and people outside of EOSIO talking about it, I don't hear about it at all. So I don't believe that they have a lot of users, but I don't know how. I mean, that's completely separate from EOS.
I get that.
They don't need a lot. Like, their business model, I don't think requires a lot of users. They'd be fine with just arbitragers, because that's the whole model of their business. Is they have this giant balance sheet, and professional market makers just use their liquidity pool to normalize pricing across exchanges all across the marketplace, like Coinbase, Binance, KuCoin, Huobi. Like they just basically buy from one exchange and sell on another exchange. There's lots of businesses that specialize in that. And those are the type of customers that could do the hundreds of millions of dollars of volume. It's not retail.
I would say the reason you don't hear much about that detail and Bullish in general up to this point is the fact that BlackRock owns large shares, primary shares of the 6 largest media companies in the world. And they're not prepared to go forth with marketing at this particular moment. So that seems to be the most prominent explanation.
I mean, I think they were in the SPAC pipe. It wasn't that big. You know, BlackRock's in a fuck ton of pipes. You know, it's the business. So, you know, I think it's a tiny, tiny position for them. I mean, what they even put into the pipe? Like 50 million, if that. So, I don't think they give a shit.
It's 300 million. I'm looking at an article now.
Wow. I stand corrected.
I think where the investments came in is on the US dollar side of their order books. So they have, I mean, not saying that they didn't have a lot of fiat also, but you have a bunch of Bitcoin and you need to match it against a bunch of dollars or a bunch of ETH. The only token that they're not matching with Bitcoin is EOS, which is funny because EOS is what funded all of their Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. So another question regarding, and then I'm sorry to derail the conversation towards this topic, but from my understanding of reading the prospectus, the Bullish exchange, the reason they're able to justify using the EOS bankroll is because they use the EOS protocol in building these exchange. I've seen some critiques online that the actual usage of the EOS protocol is like minute, and it's just basically just done to justify usage of the funds. I'm curious what you guys think about that. Thank you.
Can you rephrase? I'm not sure I picked up the question, Fidel.
Sure. So, from my understanding, in order to use the EOS bankroll, they needed to use it for an EOS project. I believe that's stipulated. So, in order to justify using it for Bullish needed to be reliant on and to use the EOS protocol. I'm curious if you guys are aware of in what form they use the protocol, if it's significant. I've seen people who claim that it's not. I'm just curious what you guys think about this.
Well,
I'm not.
Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked into it since the beginning, but I believe they were settling on a private EOSIO chain. So, I mean, I guess that would fulfill their obligations if that were true. But, I mean, it seems to me like whenever you have a bunch of people just chasing money, they're going to take whatever the shareholders or the stakeholders seem to think is the most important. So it's really a convoluted cloud of vision to try to connect it to EOS from a perspective of what is the highest return. If they were ethical and actually cared, then of course they would do way more with EOS. But to answer your question, if it is settled on EOSIO technology, I would guess that would fulfill that obligation.
Fidel, I think you're in luck. The most qualified person to answer your question happens to be the featured speaker, Philip, and he's very knowledgeable about this subject. Philip, are you still hanging on? I believe he's asking about the economics or alluding to the economics of posting to the EOS chain after each transaction or block of transactions as proof of those transactions. Philip wrote an article on that, and we all know that that he's dug quite deeply into that subject.
Yeah. So this is in our use case. This is the point of trying to get like the best of both worlds, right? Like we want to have a centralized blockchain, which allows us to have like half a second finality and fixes a ton of UX issues that people have, and also, you know, fulfills the regulator requirements about, for example, making sure that people can't permanently lose private keys, things like that. But at the same time, you want to make like the whole point of a blockchain, or one of the points of a blockchain, is to have this like full and perfect audit trail. And you can't have that if you have a private chain, a purely private chain, just because, you know, in principle, someone could get the keys and alter it or change something or go back in history and make something never happen, stuff like that. So the idea is that every time a block is produced and that block actually contains anything useful, like, you know, the data from the users, transactions, then you publish that block to something like the EOS mainnet, to some public chain where you don't have control over it. And then whilst you're not tamper-proof like a public blockchain, you are tamper-evident, which means someone will have the ability to compare the blocks on our blockchain to the blocks we published at the time of them being produced. And if there was ever a mismatch, if the hashes didn't work out, etc., you'd be able to say, aha, somebody messed with the system at this point in time. You wouldn't know how they changed it, but you'd know that they did. And that would be like, you know, the death of the business in our case, like if we did something like that. And that's how we keep ourselves honest.
Douglas.
So it says that I'm looking on the Bullish site. It says that they do have a private chain, which I assume is EOSIO, but all of the accounts are settled on the public EOS blockchain. So my question is, what is the account that I can check on blocks that is the settlement account for Bullish? Because now I'm curious.
Philip, do you know the account they use to hash on the network?
No, off the top of my head, sorry.
Okay, thank you guys. I really appreciate it. If there's anyone who is listening to the call or any of the speakers up here who's interested in discussing Bullish with me further, I'd like to speak with you. So please shoot me a DM. I'd love to chat. Thank you.
Sure. Before you go, Fidel, and thanks for joining us, by the way. Joe Louis, who's a longtime member of the EOS community, he shared some thoughts on Discord. I'll read you the thoughts on Discord, and maybe he'll reach out to you further after this call. So, you know, Joe Louis says that Bullish is extremely selective during user signup. They're not what I consider an open/public exchange. They want to know net worth, source, volume, intentions. Their trading activity is primarily the original handful of institutional friends from the November 2020 beta. Their BitGo accounts are largely the same as they always were. Volume is by and large driven by a small number of those original institutions. He wishes he could talk some more, but it's Twitter Spaces, and I guess he's just not able to join us at this time. But thank you, Joe Louis, for those comments. And thanks again, Phil, for joining us. I wasn't sure when I accepted you on stage, but I'm glad I did. Hope.
Yeah, I still can't find the hashing account, but it was every 5 minutes. So there's no way that they're settling every single trade. It's basically just a hash every 5 minutes. And even then, I haven't checked in a long time, but they were using free EOS power-ups to do that also.
So Max Cho on Discord just came in here with the account. The account name is bullishxhash. So if you look on blocks.io, you can see them hashing, like Zach just said, every 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, I'm not seeing the power up, so maybe they're doing their own resources now. But yeah, as far as the EOSIO development, we basically poached their entire senior engineering team that was building EOSIO because they wanted to work on public blockchains. That's what they signed up for when they joined Block One. And then they got assigned to the Bullish project. And a big reason why Dan decided to leave was because they were gutting out almost all of the blockchain components from it. And that was back in when did he resign? Late 2020, December 28th or something, 2020. So it's been another year and a half since then. And more of the EOSIO components have likely kind of been gutted out. So that was a big reason why the engineers wanted to kind of jump ship, was because the opportunity to continue working on EOSIO was there. They spent years mastering the craft and building EOSIO from the ground up since before 1.0 in a lot of cases, and they wanted to continue working on EOSIO. So the only way to continue to do so in the way that they envisioned when they originally signed up was to join the EOS Network Foundation. Now they are our core engineering team. So if there is still EOSIO, there is still EOSIO components to Bullish, but I just I question how much they'll be able to advance it at this point without the top talent. Especially,
Right.
and Dan himself even left. I mean, just that was a brutal loss. But then, like Bucky, Areg, and Matt all leaving is another one. There's been several other people from their team who have also left. So their Profi manager, Vlad, is also on our engineering team now. So they've lost a lot of their.
You know, I've seen these sentiments echoed on their Glassdoor page, Block One's. You know, people seem very disillusioned by the course that the organization's taken. Very similar to the comments you're making. You know, one other thing is that some of the senior people who do remain from Block One are now in charge of Bullish, and I wonder if they or the investors ever imagined that team would run a crypto exchange. It seemed to have been a quick pivot, you know, at a moment in time to find a use for the money, rather than something that was planned, you know, over years, and then a team assembled who, you know, has experience in scaling, building an exchange. Many red flags all over the place with this Bullish exchange. Really are.
Hey, Fidel, quick question. You said that there was some requirement or some reason that they needed to use EOSIO. Is that stated somewhere, or?
I recall it from the prospectus. You can pull up, it's Far Peak Acquisition Corp, ticker FPAC. If you look at their prospectus, their proxy is going to have it. They don't file an S1 for some reason, but look in their proxy. And, you know, I recall that's how, the way that they justify use of the EOS funds is that it has to be on an EOS project.
When they raised the money, they said that all that money would go towards EOSIO projects. So this is sort of their way of circumventing that by investing in themselves, essentially. I have a question, though, for Philip, and it's on the same topic as sort of Bullish hashing to EOS along with Chintai hashing to EOS. Did you have to satisfy regulators that EOS is a public and immutable blockchain in order to have that hashing? Or is that something that you guys sort of just chose to do and you're telling your clients, hey, look, this is an additional layer for an audit trail? The reason I ask is because if the regulators had to be satisfied with EOS being a public blockchain and one that's immutable, I think that's a really key piece of information.
No, it's the second one. Like the regulators were not scrutinizing that specifically. So it's more like something that we're just doing for an extra layer of security to also, you know, help convince our clients and make everyone happy.
Thanks, Philip.
Joe Louis here coming in from Discord saying that Dan had originally planned on a decentralized exchange. Bullish was to be that, similar as Voice was to be a social network. but as we know, Voice failed miserably. And yeah, we'll see what happens with Bullish, I guess. All right, so I've got a few new speakers here that requested to join the stage. Thanks, Trimbot, for that question, and Hernan. I don't know if you want to take the mic at this point.
Yeah, sure. I can chime in a bit regarding Bullish and Block One. Just full disclosure, I worked at Block One just as they transitioned on, as Voice became its own company. So I was kind of heading the mobile team and the transition from Voice towards being a independent company from Block One. I think regarding what you said about them having to use the EOS blockchain somehow, I don't know if they're legally obliged. I mean, if B1 is proficient at something, it's their legal team. much more so that their development force, especially at this point. So that did not stop them from doing whatever they're supposed to do. And I think to your point, if I could sum it up, I think the concern here on I don't want to speak on behalf of like EOS, right? The community, I can't, but I think something that me as a community member would be disturbing is that if that SPAC kind of goes through, they become public with a company whose assets come mainly from that disputed token sale, which is now in dispute. It could serve as a way of kind of I don't want to say laundering money, but kind of a cleaning table and setting that record straight, because then those assets are no longer kind of disputable, or they become some kind of a company asset versus some funds that they did acquire during the ICO. And I think that's what would be concerning if the SPAC goes through. Of course, I was back then against the us as a community freezing the tokens of Block One, because I do see that I thought we have a vested interest in them being still committed to EOS through those tokens. But it was still a long shot. They have not seen any intent to promote EOS, further EOS, or even now that they have access to the volume that they claim they do on Bullish, then we have not seen any of the volume as a potential inflow in EOS, which it's obviously not a thing to go say, hey, so why don't we see that reflected in EOS? Because they could say, well, it's just the market. But we were hoping that Bullish would be kind of our own Binance style exchange that has EOS in mind. But I don't see that happening in any form. So that's my take on regards to Bullish and B1 and EOS.
All right, great. Thanks, Hernan, for sharing your thoughts. I think our friend Fidel Cashflow is no longer on the call, but if someone's listening to this at a later time, you want to reach out, I'm just going to repeat his Twitter account. It's Tango Grenada on Twitter. So he did say if anyone had any other information they wanted to share, he's open to that information. So reach out to Tango Grenada on Twitter. Seems like he's a fairly popular Twitter account as well, followed by by Pomp and by Thomas Farley, the incoming CEO of Bullish. So just a little tidbit of information for you. All right, that was a fun, unexpected topic. Any other topics that someone in the chat wants to bring up? Real quickly, want to give a shout out to Cool Wave Capital on Twitter. He's posting, EOS centric newsletters. He used to do that a while back. He stopped at some point. Good to see that he's coming back in the game, back in the EOS community. So definitely check those out. Again, that's Cool Wave Capital on Twitter for those of you who want to maybe give him a follow. I guess to come back on the bullish topic here, just want to share some more thoughts from Joe Louis from Discord here. So Julie says, bullish was an intentional pivot by the C-suite away from Dan's desire to be a decentralized exchange. He continues to say, a DEX doesn't service their needs with billions of trading volumes, nor are institutions allowed to interact with DEXs. So Dan's version of bullish was almost never a reality from the C-suite / board's perspective. He continues that DeFi DEXs are not compatible with the operating requirements of most institutions, specifically due to regional corporate rules, regulations, and taxations. Just wanted to share that with you guys. All right, so looks like we may be wrapping up soon. Quick reminder for those of you who are listening live to this Fireside Chat, check out the latest ENF tweet, retweet it, leave your EOS account name in the comments, and you'll earn a POP token. Also, head on over to our Discord in the stream chat, and you can drop your EOS account name with the money sign in front of it there to earn a POP token as well. So we're gonna give it another 30 seconds. If someone wants to come on the stage, say hi to the community, ask a question, leave a comment. Of course, we always love hearing from you guys. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just was gonna start a new topic about if it would make sense to have its own blockchain, but if we're winding down, we don't have to jump into that. And also, I apologize if my mic is causing background noise. For some reason, when I mute it, I'll still have background noise. So just mute me if that happens again.
No, when you mute yourself, it's fine. We don't. You're coming in clear. There's no background noise. It's good. Regarding the Eden blockchain topic, I'm not sure if you want to elaborate on that, or maybe, share some thoughts. We can. And if anyone else has other thoughts or questions, don't hesitate to jump in here.
Oh, sure. I can elaborate a little bit. The purpose of Eden is to add value to EOS, and hopefully in the next bylaws we'll have a little bit better of a vision for that. So it wouldn't really make sense for Eden to go onto its own chain. However, I do believe that there's a big opportunity in terms of funding to move Eden, or even start an auxiliary chain for Eden that would then still have the original goal of increasing the EOS. The reason that this can be economically viable is that whenever you create this new chain, you have the opportunity to do forks. You could do something similar to Telos, where you cap the amount that you can get in the fork for, you could think of it as the airdrop that you get for your tokens. But the big reason for funding is you can take a big portion of the allocated tokens and you can set them up or set them aside for funding Eden, right? So if you were able to create a decent market cap through a small airdrop, well, where you might limit the amount of EOS at 1,000 or 10,000 that then gets matched into the new system, you can imagine that that would be maybe 5 to 10% of the total supply of the new blockchain if you were to mirror one-to-one the EOS tokens. So that leaves a significant percentage for the team and the chain and things like that, as well as a better economic system so that Eden wouldn't require outside funding. Not that I think that it's a bad thing. Like, I'm all about supporting Eden and you know, really better defining what we're doing there, whether or not we're supporting projects or leadership, and better defining our vision and our goals and things like that. However, I do think that this is an opportunity that should be brought up. I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. So I just wanted to throw the idea out there and see if anybody resonates with it, or what your thoughts are for or against.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Douglas, for jumping in and for, you know, proposing a new topic. You know, personally, that's the first time I hear of such an idea. You know, if you could create an Eden blockchain that would have enough value inside it and enough market cap, like you say, to be able to fund Eden itself without having Eden to rely on EOS inflation, that'd be great, of course. I'm just maybe skeptical of where that value from the new Eden chain would come from, right? So you need buyers of these new tokens. Why are buyers coming in to purchase these new Eden tokens? I understand you don't necessarily have all the answers. I'm not necessarily asking you to answer that question. Just those are just some of the thoughts, you know, that crossed my mind regarding that topic. But thanks for bringing it up.
Sure. And if anybody else wants to jump in and share thoughts, I don't mean to command the stage, but I do want to answer what you said. So what I see as the big issue with Eden is that the idea is really radical and really beautiful, right? This idea of fractal governance, you know, just starting to take form, just being a baby toddler with taking its first steps. It's beautiful. And I believe that the problem with it is that we have this sort of baggage from B1, from all this past drama in EOS, as well as the general high, what's the word I want? Like the high technical knowledge or the density of information surrounding EOS. So like the people in this call, the people in the community are very knowledgeable about EOS, but whenever somebody wants to come into EOS, they bump into these sort of ideological barriers by searching out and finding out things about B1, finding all these different things. So my counterpoint to your question is it's easier to create a new value from nothing by showing off a newborn child than it is to have somebody with questionably a bad reputation, which B1 has sort of given EOS, and then try to convince everybody that this person has a beautiful baby that's worth growing up. You know, so I believe that the value that would be generated from that would come from a new vision statement, a new mission statement, a new definition of exactly what we're doing. But I believe that if fractal governance is the goal, and if the goal is to demonstrate these systems working properly, it will be necessary to either auxiliarize, that is to still focus on EOS, but to create a separate Mandel or EOSIO chain, to separate the branding, to separate the association, or otherwise just completely separate and create a true experiment, which actually would benefit and would add a ton of value to EOS, because if you do an airdrop, obviously there's a snapshot which has one moment in time when you can have EOS and then get this other token. So there's an ROI potential. As well as the idea I've actually pitched is to do it in 12 stages, or to do 12 monthly drops. So you have more of an on-ramp both to communicate the idea, but also have more people come into the space, get the EOS in order to get these other tokens, which would be on Fractally. So, or I mean, sorry, on the Eden blockchain. So yeah, I know that it's like a radical idea, but sometimes whenever you want to grow things, you have to take a good hard look at the fundamentals as well as the skin. And the skin is what you're showing the outside world. So I think I think Eden is amazing. I think it's doing amazing things, but I also, looking at the fundamentals, I understand that the sort of association may be something that is hindering both EOS and this idea of fractal governance. So I want to share this idea, which I previously shared a few other times, to see if other people resonate with it.
All right. Maxocoin, did you want to jump in here, share some thoughts?
Hi. Yes. No. I'm just wondering, like, instead of creating a whole new blockchain, just creating a token and make it all those ideas make it in EOS, because, like, for me, uh, creating a new chain from nothing, like how many sister chains have disappeared from EOS? Like, you need a lot of traction, a lot of people, and you have that already in EOS. Maybe not, but I think it's always easier to start from or continue from EOS on creating a token, on do this token distribution with all those measures that you were saying for this token, that having the technical burden, the showing people the new kind of blockchain, bringing people in instead of just advertising between the people that's already there on things like that. I think, like, I don't know. I really think it's kind of I don't know. It's too much pain for I don't know if any gains at all. That's my idea.
All right, great. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Definitely some interesting ideas. I'm sure the Eden community will continue discussing them in the coming weeks. All right, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here for this week. Thank you, everyone, for joining the EOS Fireside Chat. Last call for those pop tokens. Retweet the ENF tweet, join in the Discord. And other than that, I'm going to wish everyone a good evening, and we'll talk to you next week. Let's go, EOS.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Go EOS. Peace.